Ouch. It hurts.
I don't like this.
I don't like this at all. Are you sure you want to do a podcast tonight?
Cole, if you want to call the show off, I'm fine with that. Let's just move GG next, go to the next one.
Chat, we'll leave it up to you. Should we have a podcast tonight? No? That will be all. We don't need to say anything because guess what? It was a rough weekend.
It was a rough weekend.
And
Cole, you predicted this exactly.
I know. That doesn't make it hurt any less. That doesn't, usually I make my so sure of myself predictions knowing that there's a high likelihood that they will not come true. Mm-hmm. This was not one of those weekends.
Yep. I think I was on the generous side of the prediction game with one win. So
yeah, I thought that was generous at the time too. Oh man. And I'll say this too. Clearly, I didn't expect us to win. Mm-mm. Clearly, you didn't expect us to win the series. Mm-mm. So, Jordan, in the great words of the late 90s / early 2000s white poet Moby, why does my heart feel so bad?
Only Moby could say it so beautifully, Cole.
Or whoever he sampled for that record.
He's probably the only one who knows right now. Here's something we've become acquainted with, Cole. There are different ways in which you can lose a series in a game. This was one of the worser ways. And
the worser way.
Yeah, it was one of the worserest, I'd wager. And that's why we feel this way. That's fans why we feel the way we feel. This is 100 Talk.
Oh yeah, that's right. This is 100 Talk. We talk about 100 Thieves League of Legends, even when it's insanely uncomfortable too. Yeah. Like after a weekend that we just had. I'm Cole. That's Jordan. Let's you know what? Let's talk about something nice first.
That's a great idea, Cole. Let's do that.
Let's just put all of the bad feelings aside for 1 minute and talk about the apparel drop. All right, so earlier in the week, last week, 100 Thieves announced that they would be dropping the black on black jerseys along with the primary and secondary jerseys, and that 100% of the proceeds would go to fighting COVID-19. And they raised $114,000 in profit doing so.
Wow.
So not only did we get blessed with fresh new jerseys or older jerseys that maybe you missed out on, we also were able to donate to a good cause. So our hard-earned monies gave us drip and fought for the cure. Exactly. You love to see it. Really quick though, that was a fast drop.
That was lightning fast.
Jordan, what was your experience, man?
We've been around for all of them, Cole. And that one, I think I messaged you afterwards and I said that was probably the fastest drop that I've been a part of. Holy mackerel. Yeah, I caught an L on that one.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a my card wasn't in as I thought it was. And so by the time I switched it to my PayPal, I know. And it's on me. That's no one's fault but my own.
You hate to see it. You hate
full
to see
ownage. I think I had my card expired in March. And so I believe that was one place I hadn't updated it. That's all it takes.
That is
a matter of moments. At 2:03 Central Time, I was informed of the bad news. And
at 2:03, 3 minutes after the drop.
3 minutes. And I spammed refresh for a while after I heard that they were doing some restocks. Didn't get it. But you know what? That's part of the way it goes. I think my favorite thing about this drop, Cole, is that C9 was the first reply on our post with the clapping hands emote, and I think maybe the high five emote.
Yeah.
That's class. And I think it just goes to show you that, esports right now is so valuable for a lot of reasons. One, because it's a welcome distraction from all the news and all the stuff going on out there.
Sure, yeah.
But it's I thought it was just a perfect example of how it's kind of bigger than all that, right? Like the org, the team, the hard work, this huge gesture by the team to donate a significant amount of money to the people who are out there working hard every day. So
right. There are some other orgs who would kill for $114,000 in apparel profit, you know?
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's a very interesting number of like, wow, that's a powerful drop.
Yeah, so good on them. And I'm sure they did that honestly with limited quantities too. So good on them. I fortunately was able to secure the black jersey because I move like a ninja. I move like lightning. They call me Ninja Lightning during those drops.
You look even more like one in your black on black jersey.
That's right. That's actually why I'm going to be wearing that at every future drop.
Yes, you should. Makes you faster, 10% faster.
And so first of all, we're not reopening this whole conversation. We're just hitting this quick before we move on. But I get a lot of people are frustrated by not being able to check out, everything getting sold out. Like, I understand. I sympathize with that. I will say, however, that I think the website has operated a lot more smoothly for the past like 2 or 3 drops to the point where, you know, even though the product moves fast, so does the website, man. Everything is buttery smooth. We're not getting any missing checkout buttons. We're not getting hung up in the queue lines or anything like that. So kudos to the team for, you know, making some significant and material improvements there as always. Yeah. So
that is massive.
Yeah.
Because you know they moved a lot of units. To be able to sell out in 3 minutes and me not have like a glitch is pretty crazy. So that's a lot of respect for that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about less pleasant stuff. And you know what? Let's just do that for the whole podcast. How about that?
I love it. That's a great idea.
We are so excited for this episode. Holy cow. Like, this is the best thing we could be doing with our time is to put a measuring stick to just how badly we were defeated this weekend.
Yep. That's what I love to do.
All right. So we're going to do this differently than normal. We're going to do a super quick, like, rundown of the major themes from the 3 games that we played because, you know, we didn't earn a 4th or a 5th. And then we're going to dive into a selection of topics. And some of those we actually will hit on a much deeper level than we typically do. For kind of like the hot button issues for fans right now. So be prepared. It's
lore-based deep dive.
Yeah, so be prepared for that. It'll be a little bit different and hopefully it goes well. We don't know. We've never done it before, but you know, we love you guys. And you know, this week there's, you know, it's a good week to try new things, right? It's a good week to try new things. Right. We'll say that phrase a little bit later in the discussion, I think. So, Jordan, if you don't mind, I'll kind of take the reins during the game recaps and you can just tell me how accurate or inaccurate my brief takeaways are. So game 1, like again, no one's expecting us to come out the gate and win this game. But I literally don't think that anyone thought it would be that bad. Our last showing against C9 was like respectable. We hung with him for a while and then we ended up, you know, giving over a pick at a very key time and then losing a team fight at a very key time. And that kind of ended things. So it was like, even though I think they won the game in like 28, 29 minutes, it wasn't as bad as it looked. This game was not like that. It was a thorough stomp. And for whatever reason that I'm struggling to understand, and I'm just going to make the observation now and leave it for discussion later. We decided to open with testing new team compositions, new strategies, especially the Kalista Taric bot lane. We whipped that out. I don't know, because other people can play it. That's why we pulled it out. We've heard it's good. We heard other people have found great success doing it. So we tried our hand against the toughest LCS opponent maybe there has ever been. So that was the thing, and it didn't go well. That Kalista Taric lane, it was not the Kalista Taric that you will see in other leagues or played by other bot lanes. It was rough. And it's hard when you've got the level of talent across the rift in every position that C9 has. It's hard to really do poorly in any of the lanes and feel like you have a chance to win.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
It's against the best teams. If you do poorly in one way, and that's your new lose condition. That's how they're going to beat you.
Yeah. And like Sinka in chat says, copying Korea but can't play it. that's kind of how it felt. And then the other big theme that was key in this game for me was that everything we did, we just moved a little bit slower than they did. Mm-hmm. And when you are on a pro level of this game, when you move a little bit slower than somebody, that makes all the difference. So moving a little bit slower ends up being a massive advantage to the other team. And it felt like we were just getting beat to every single play. Every rotation was late. They had tempo pretty much the entire game. It was really rare that we made what I felt was a decisive call anywhere on this. It was basically scrambling to react to whatever that they were doing the whole time.
Yeah.
And our reaction speed was not quick.
Yep.
So,
and we're going to get into some examples of this
when
we do our deeper dive.
Yes.
So if you're like, okay, give me a little bit more, guys, that's coming. But I think that is a very accurate description of the feeling of this game in a lot of the situations.
Yeah. And as is being pointed out in chat, it's C9 versus everyone else kind of thing. Yes, sure. But it really spiraled out of control for us in this game. Game 2. Actually, let me back up. Before game 2 started, I tweeted, I wish I had it in front of me. I should have pulled it out. But I tweeted something along the lines of, well, the good news is it can't get any worse than that game.
I remember that tweet.
I am so profoundly just in the wrong direction. My karma is oriented wrong, or I have the wrong charge on all my subatomic particles.
I was going to say your chakra is just off. Cole.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's not good, man. It's really not good. That tweet was wrong. I should have issued a formal retraction of my tweet, because game 2, if game 1 was a thorough stomp, game 2 was a disastrous stomp.
Yeah. Yep.
And you know what we did? We said, hey, let's pull out another test pick. That Callistoteric, it's not really our thing. Maybe Kog'Maw is.
You know what is our thing? Kog'Maw.
Now, I've got faith in the Kog'Maw pick, so let's just pull it out.
I can't believe we didn't think of it first game. Shame on us, really. Cole, can I give you an analogy?
Yeah, please.
The first game felt kind of like one of those dreams you have where the deck is stacked against you,
Yeah.
It's like you show up and you don't have your pants on and the people at school are laughing. And then, you open your locker and the slime from Nickelodeon falls on you. It's all just one big running gag. The second game felt kind of like the dream you have where you're trying to run through Jello, it's like everyone else around you is moving at normal speed, but you're moving just so slowly and you can't run any faster. Or the dream that I often have where I need to go, somebody's urging me to leave the house and I can't find my shoes. And I look for my shoes the entire dream. It's like you don't even get to participate in what's happening around you just because it's going so poorly. And that's how this felt to me, Cole.
You have some very panicky dreams.
That's how my stress dreams are. A lot of people do the school dreams.
Mine actually, my stress dream applies to this too, right? Mm-hmm. I've got a weird one.
I think that's really appropriate because that's how this felt. It felt like a stress dream. What's yours?
Mine is that I can be doing whatever. I'm not actively doing anything. I could be sitting watching TV, and my teeth start to fall out in my mouth.
Ugh, get those
and I
out
can
of here.
feel them in my mouth. I feel my teeth are just falling out. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep. I prefer mine over yours, actually.
The teeth fell out of 100 Thieves for this game. It was so bad. Look, and not just the Kog'Maw pick.
Yes.
Ssumday actually truly tilted.
Yeah, a world first.
I'm not sure we've ever seen that before. Ssumday legitimately tilted. He rage chased into the jungle for no apparent reason and didn't take any corrective action either.
They corrected him.
Like The Shining, they corrected him. I could not explain it. We're not like, the last time I thought he was doing that was against Optic in 2019, where he decided to chase Meteos into the Optic base,
right? Flashing
like 8 minutes into the game. And guess what? He killed Meteos and he got out without dying.
Right. He left. He finished his business and he walked away from the scene of the crime.
This was a different result. I've never seen this. And
it was really unnerving.
Yeah, it really was. And actually, like, to be honest, I'm a little worried because it clearly affected him beyond the game too. Like after the game, he tweeted out, like when he went to stream, he posted his link and said something like worst top laner NA stream or something like that. And he was very apologetic in his tweet. It was, man,
that's not good.
It was rough. He legit tilted.
He's probably not used to the feeling that he had, Cole, which is I'm not doing a good job. Like, when was the last time Ssumday, like, I'm sure there's times where he's felt like I should have done more, but when was the last time you walked away from a game feeling like, man, Ssumday really didn't play that well? It's been a long time. Maybe it's been never. This was a very strange game and experience as a Ssumday fan.
Yeah, so that was weird. The other thing was a lot more familiar, and that this was a game of getting caught out. A lot of people out of position and paying the price. And this was really everybody. I mean, the Ssumday tilt was him getting out of position. It happened to Cody. It happened to Stunt. It happened to Meteos. I believe it happened to Ryoma later in the game as well. So I think literally everybody got caught out of position at one point and died when they should not have. And then, and I should have said this earlier. You know how we pulled out the Kog'Maw pick? This is the weirdest part about the Kog'Maw pick. I can't remember a single image in my head of Kog'Maw in this game. I literally can't think of anything he did.
Yeah, I have one image of him doing the little death run around thing.
Oh yeah, after he's dead, it was Icathian surprise or whatever
is that what that
call
is?
it. They've got some name for it like that.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Let me just consult the book here for a second. Never. So it would just felt like a Where's Cody game. And we're gonna talk about the draft and how that played into maybe that part of it in a minute. So bear with us. Yeah. So after getting taken apart in game 1 and then completely like put on the hydraulic press YouTube channel where they just crush you in game 2, game 3
put in the Blender YouTube channel where they blend whatever.
Will it blend? Will 100T blend? Game 3 was actually a fairly promising start. And we'll get into what, in my opinion, was the difference in a little while. But we had tempo in the early game, which was the first time against the C9 squad that's ever happened, really. We had tempo. We had initiative. We were making active plays. We were taking neutrals. We were getting picks. And it lasted for, I don't know, like I think we were even in gold at least until about 21, 22 minutes, which against C9 is a huge dub. Moral dub.
Yes.
And I hate talking about moral dubs, but that's a moral dub.
This is the second time we've had this conversation about playing against C9, the moral dub. This was exactly how our second round robin game against them went, and we've left it feeling pretty good.
I didn't feel great though. Like here's the thing,
because it's like no.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, I misheard you. Yeah, it was like okay, all right. Maybe Jordan's right. Jordan's always right on the predictions. Okay, so here we go. And then honestly, like I don't think there's a clear night and day. Like this is what they were doing in the beginning, and then they changed it by doing this. Hey, honestly, to me, it just felt like they started using their comp better than we did. And they were fighting better than we fought. And then the old familiar getting caught out started to happen as well. Yep. So it was just like a gradual, like, I don't know if they just had their foot off the gas for a while at the beginning, but they granted us initiative for a while, which we took. And then, by 15 minutes, maybe it started to turn. And then by 22, 23 minutes, they really seized control of the game, and it ended pretty quickly, and we were losing every fight, and it just was not great.
Yeah. I'll make one quick comment on this. And I think when you watch games 1 and 2, if you look really closely at the individual moments, and you ask yourself, why is this happening? I think that in a lot of those, it's us beating ourselves, which is partially what feels so bad.
Yeah.
It's us making plays that it's not demonstrating Cloud9's brilliance. It's us failing to execute the basics. It's us taking a fight that we really have no business taking, failing to anticipate reinforcements arriving, right? Maybe you haven't seen the jungler in a minute, and oh, surprise, he has shown up to ruin this 2v2 for us, right? Like that's not the best team in the world type stuff.
Yeah.
Now you have to be good to be able to do that. I'm not trying to take anything away from C9, but there's also a level of responsibility you have as a professional team to play smart. And I think for a lot of this stuff, it just felt like we weren't really doing that. So if I had to guess, I'd say part of what was probably going on is we weren't giving them those advantages, because when you give a good team those advantages, they become an impossible team to beat 15 minutes into the game. And then it's just a question of, do you make it 10 or 15 more minutes before they beat you?
Yeah. It's like, how long can you hold and stall out?
Yeah.
Even though maybe comp wise, we may or may not be equipped to like actually,
yes.
For that to have any fruits, so.
Right.
Speaking of comp, we have to have a little conversation about the draft on the series as a whole.
Yep.
And there's a lot. We already talked about Kalista Tarek and Kog'Maw being experimental picks. Some people have said, if we really don't feel like we're going to win the series, then why don't we, try something and see where we stand with it. The problem with that for me is that it's C9 that we're playing. It's like something that may work against a lesser team won't work against them. So you don't really know where you stand. All you find out is that you can't play it well enough to beat C9. Yep. You know what I mean? That's like best case scenario. Right. Now, I will say, I think we got more information out of it than that, which is we should just not play it, period. So fortunately, we do have that information. But here's why this was especially bad to me. If you remember going back to the last week of the regular season, I was pointing out how glad I was that we beat FlyQuest with a comp that was slightly different, because we had played basically the same thing like 6 out of the last 8 games at that point. Yep. We pulled out something different and pounded FlyQuest, and my thought on that was that's really great, because that means we're not so draft one-dimensional. You can't just position against us in the draft, block what we're familiar with and used to, and win the game, in draft. Uh-huh. By default. So the problem now is that we pulled out some more test spicy stuff, and not only did it look bad against C9, but it looked bad objectively.
Yeah.
So other teams aren't going to be scared of that possibility. You know what I mean?
Like if you are TSM right now, you're like, I mean, do we ban Kalista or do we ban Tarek? Like, which one do you think we should go for? I don't know. It's such a hard choice for us to make. Like, they're probably like, boy, that's free. Yeah, let them take that, please. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So you almost do harm to yourself.
Exactly. Like, I feel like we are positioned for future drafts worse than we were going into this game. I would have rather us played the normal like set comp knowing we're going to get smashed and just ride that out,
Well, and that's exactly the point that I was hoping you'd come to is I would have loved to have seen us play the bread and butter style we have had first. There are multiple philosophies on this. We saw and we're discussing 2, right? The first is, let me start with the second. You play what you're best at.
Sure.
And you use that as a way to, I love coming back to this. It's a DPS check. How are we good enough at what we're good at to actually beat this team? And if the answer is no, okay, then you pull out the spicy stuff. The other thought is you start spicy, because if it's good enough, right? Let's say you have a sizable lead. Even if you lose that game, if it's one that they really don't want to see again, it forces them to make a harder decision in the next draft to say, hey, look, I'm not sure. Like, that could have gone differently. And unless we had X champ playing, we would have lost that. Easy enough for them to ban that champ next time. And then we're actually in a bad spot. So one is riskier. One is a roll of the dice to see what happens, because if that bet hits, you've just given yourself an advantage in the series being up a game, but also in future drafts and kind of the way the team needs to prepare and anticipate for that. How stupid do you look if you give them the same pick twice that ends up beating you? You don't want to do that in a best of 5. So,
funny you should mention that, Jordan.
That's called a segue.
That is called a great segue. So in game 1, we allowed them to have Zoe for Niski. Mm-hmm. In game 2, after being destroyed, we allowed them to have Zoe for Niski again.
It wrote it back, yeah.
But being ones who thoroughly learned the lessons we're taught after pop-off games, we then made sure to, I'm checking my notes here. Actually, we gave them Zoe again a third time.
Yep.
Now,
bit of inspiration there
this one hurts personally for me a little bit more than for the rest of you. And that's because I've pointed out that not only does Ryoma have a good Zoe, but that he has played into Zoe well. Like he knows the champion. So I think he was like 4-1 into Zoe this split up until this series. Well, he just took 3 L's in a row on Zoe. So that just undermined my whole point.
Yeah.
I always have.
I'm not going to react to this right now because it's going to be part of our next segment. But this is such an interesting one to me. And I think I have something which might be at least partially informative on this. I'm not going to say I know the answers. I haven't talked to anybody who actually thinks deeply about this stuff. But I'm interested to hear your reaction to some of the stuff that I'm going to bring up. So keep that fresh in your mind. Zoe.
All right.
Not that you can forget it if you tried.
Some of the other things we did in draft were first picking Syndra for Ryoma twice. So not just one time did we blind pick his mid laner. We did it twice. Now, I will say, I don't think he's a bad Syndra. And I think some of that is, that's a powerful pick. So either we take it or we're against it. But picking it first seemed to me like, I don't know, not ideal. I think Ryoma is someone who I think you should try and have counterpick for as much as possible because, he's a weaker laner than Ssumday. He's a weaker laner than Cody's son. So that's something you have to be careful of. Now, I get that they were kind of banning out some of Ryoma's champ pool. But does he really not have more than 3 champs? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because we haven't seen a whole lot. Yeah. We've seen him on LeBlanc, Zoe, Orianna, and Syndra. So I guess really like 4 champs that we've seen him like, enough on to know that they're part of the pool. I don't know. It just am I tripping here? It just seemed like first pick Syndra twice was kind of nutty.
Yeah. I have my response, but it'll be part of the next segment, so I'm going to hold that thought.
I'm posing so many questions for future discussions. What about Aphelios? We let them we just gave them over Aphelios. That's the other side of this coin of first pick Syndra is letting them have Aphelios at will.
Part of me wonders if we were convinced that was going to be a great champ for us, I think we would have first picked it. And here's my based on nothing but my own suspicions. Some of these picks, I wonder if they had been scrimming with Cody on these champs against Aphelios and said, you know what, that's actually a pretty good matchup for us. I kind of like that. And that's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise, why would you voluntarily give that to them? Especially if I'd say, that our bot lane is not a guaranteed or even a likely winning lane for us. It just hasn't been, especially when we've been away from Aphelios. So that's my charitable. I like to find the charitable thought on that is maybe somebody somewhere said, yeah, they're going to get Aphelios, but you have to know that they're going to take it. It's so meta that if you're not taking it and it's not banned, you should expect to play against it. And we did, right? And it didn't go well.
Well, that's the thing. It's like
if you have enough hubris to take Kalista and to take Kog'Maw, you have to be doing that on the assumption that you can play it well enough into that matchup to be okay.
And
right?
just seeing it played, I don't see how they could have come to that conclusion.
I don't
earlier.
either.
I know, and I'm fully aware that Cody and Stunt were playing this lane, like in solo queue or whatever. Like, I know that they were doing that, but man, it is a different beast. And they had to have been pulling it out in scrims or something. That's the only explanation I can think of, but it objectively did not look good. And the problem with
I guarantee, one quick note, I guarantee you're asking scrim partners to play Aphelios when you're playing those two champions, because if you aren't banning it, it's going to be played.
Yeah.
Or at least there's a very high likelihood. So unless you're negligent, you're practicing against that.
Well, and the thing about Aphelios too is that Aphelios is maybe like, I don't know, maybe the most OP champ in the game right now. Like, it's a really, really good pick. It may be the best pick that there is available. So you have to make a play for it. Like you either need to play it or ban it, I feel like. And man, did we pay the price for this. Our bot lanes got smashed, man.
Yeah. Really and had we taken that standard, our best shot, look, I think we do draft that either first or, we probably position ourselves to get it. So I think it's driven by this decision to play a new look bot lane that led to us letting it through.
Yeah. Well, in any case, the drafts didn't feel great. It's hard to feel great going into a C9 game, but man, I don't know. Let's talk Ryoma. Let's dive fully into this Ryoma thing.
Let's do it.
I think the one thing that we get more than anything is people either coming in Ryoma's defense or saying he's definitely needs to go. And right. I'm surprised at how little middle ground there is on this. Mm-hmm. Maybe it depends on which context you're looking, because if you're looking for the short term, then I think, he's here to stay, Yep. But long term, it may be different. But what we need to do more than anything as fans is take like a more objective look into how he's playing and what's going on, because I don't think the storyline about him always matches up with how the games are playing out. And there's some interesting observations to be made along the way. So this is what we're going to like do that we haven't really done before, is we're going to kind of take a deep dive into Ryoma's play over all three of these games and kind of give you, here's what happened in the early game, and try and draw some conclusions from that. And I think Jordan's going to kick it off.
Yeah, and there are a couple things. I think it was the JLXP, Mark Z, and Jat talking, and they'd said somewhere that Reaper had said, we kind of took 100T because we feel like the Niski Ryoma matchup is really favorable for us.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to review that comment myself, so I don't know what the comment was or if it was made or whatever, but I heard that and I thought that was super interesting. And so I really wanted to understand, like, did that play out? Because a lot of what we've talked about, I don't think we talked about Ryoma basically at all. We talked about Ssumday inting. We talked about these weird picks we saw. We talked about a lot of stuff that was not going our way very clearly, but we didn't spend time talking about Ryoma. Some people will say it's because we're biased and because we like him. Here's what I'll say. I watched these games. I watched very closely the laning phase plus some of the first game. And I kind of watched every interaction he had. And I just took some notes. And I didn't take them with any kind of an agenda. I just recorded factually kind of what's going on. So I don't know how this is going to go. Maybe this will be a not very exciting format. But there are a couple things that I was watching for as I watched this game. One, this idea that roaming mid lane is and was the key to our defeat, right? That Ryoma doesn't have or command or demand lane presence. And so you basically get a second jungler if you're playing against us, because he's so easy in lane that you can kind of just go wherever you want. It doesn't really matter. So that's one thing I was watching for. What is the enemy mid laner doing throughout this game? The other thing I was watching for is, what is he doing? What impact does he have outside his lane? And why, as much as you can see. So here we go. First, this is the first game, Syndra, Zoe.
Yeah, and I have my play-by-play here to do, so I may interject something here or there, but
yeah. And let's just talk about this as we go, right? We don't need to go through all these notes, but The very first thing that happens is Niski shoves the first wave, and he roams, and he spots Meteos. And I think that's a product of Zoe. Zoe has better wave clear than Syndra at level 1. She zips the Q out. She buys herself enough time to just check our jungle, and she does that. And as a result, Blabber invades the other side. Personally, I'm not putting that on Ryoma. Like I said, I don't think that's something he misplayed, and I don't think you can really stop that, right? Because it's just such a quick check for Niski to do that I think he does it kind of, you can't stop him. Business as usual, 4th wave, Blabber ganks. So there's one gank coming at Ryoma in mid lane. He gets a cleanse out of it. Ryoma has to burn his cleanse to make sure he doesn't die. But they're even CS, 16-16.
And worth mentioning that Ryoma had Niski's health bar low, like not super low, but lower than his at the beginning of this gank, and still finished above him in health as well during the gank. So he averted this gank. Yeah, he used cleanse. He had to use cleanse, but he avoided the gank pretty well. He didn't get like damaged so bad, you know, all that stuff. So he played it reasonably well.
So here's the next one. Next wave, Niski shoves, and he roams top. So here's another roam. And here's the other thing I wanted to do. I want to understand what benefit does his roaming provide to Cloud9? And is this truly the reason they're coming out ahead in these fights and in this game? So he shoves, he roams top. He spots Meteos hovering top, but Licorice, it's right before Licorice gets his solo kill. Licorice is in no danger, so Meteos is basically just kind of hanging out to see what happens. Mm-hmm. So minimally beneficial, I would say. Immediately after that, Ssumday gets solo killed. Niski, at that time, is in his lane, so has no impact on that. A little bit later, CS score is 42-37. Ryan was up, and Niski roams to fake ward drop. So he just sits in the bot lane brush for like 8 seconds, right? Threatening to roam, but not actually going anywhere. So again, Ryoma pings vision, and that's basically all that happens. A little bit later, 48-46, CS is close. Ryoma shoves this time, and he roams, and he covers bot river. So he is actually exerting pressure on the map by being in bot river and making sure that we have numbers there. Mm-hmm. So I would consider that to be actually beneficial to us. So that's him roaming and creating benefit for the team. Next thing that happens is bot lane both die to a gank with Stunt walking into an Aphelios turret. During that time, Niski is in lane. So again, nothing there. A little bit later, 58-54 CS, Niski is roaming this time, and he challenges Meteos on their blue buff, and he forces a smite out. Meteos still gets the blue buff. Nothing else happens. A little bit later, first Drake, Ryoma and Meteos are the first to reinforce from mid. So they were actually in mid-river, kind of mid-river, before Niski. Niski's following them. Niski, he engages on Meteos, who's kind of trailing behind Ryoma, and he gets a solo kill, essentially. He gets him so low. And I think he might actually finish the solo kill there. Or it's like up in their jungle. So that's how that goes. Ryoma has 2 choices. He can either try to engage on the bot lane fight, which is quickly turning against our bot lane. This is like in the bush outside bot lane. Or he can try to save Meteos. And he picks bot lane, trying to save those 2. And he's the only player from our team who leaves that fight alive. And Niski gets the 2 kills. He gets the Meteos kill, and he picks one out from Cody and Stunt.
I will say that when Ryoma joined this fight, he was out of mana. He had enough mana for 1 scatter the week. That's all he had, and he used it.
Yep.
That's all he had, and that was because Niski backed first at this, and I think Ryoma started to back but canceled it when he saw the dragon play. So Ryoma didn't get back. He didn't get to recharge on his mana. So
So I think he basically did scatter the week, and then both of them died. So there was not a prolonged fight there that he couldn't really engage in. It was just over basically and arrived. Fast forward a little bit. It's 93-76 CS. Ryan was up. So up almost 20 CS. Up to this point, I would say that Niski's had minimal impact on the game. He's been some places, but he's not contributed meaningfully to much of anything. He got 2 kills, but it's because our team was...
I think I give him a little more credit than that.
I mean, because
2 kills is a big deal, and 2 kills is a big deal, and intel on opponent jungler is pretty big deal too.
He has, the very first play of the game, and the 2 kills that were kind of given to him, 1 by Medios getting caught in the river, and 2 by our guys being served on a plate to him. So like,
sure,
he's getting kills, but it's not because he showed up because of anything that Ryoma did or because of a fantastic play he made. Those were already done, right? So 93-76, he's up CS. Niski roams to help secure the rift because Medios is spotted by a control ward in the bot lane. Okay. 106-93, Ryan was up. Ryoma shoves the wave and positions in the river, and he gets a defensive ult out of Blabber, who needs to disengage.
Yeah.
So another positive contribution from Ryoma. He's up 112-100. He matches Niski's roam bot to protect Medios' scuttle attempt, and he allows Medios to get out alive. So positive. 118-106, Ryoma's still up. He's Niski roams top to help Licorice finish Ssumday. And, this is the play where Ssumday's basically dead, and he uses a Q long distance to get the kill. So, yes, good. He can't do that if Ssumday isn't being dominated in lane, basically. While Niski's up there, Ryoma actually trades flashes with Blabber and almost gets a solo kill on him under the Cloud9 turret. So he's still making a play in mid lane. Not a great trade. Like, it doesn't really mean much, but he's there trying to do stuff. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, some other stuff. Ryoma roams top at one point. He's up 14 CS, 147, 133, but there's nothing to fight over because Licorice disengages and heads toward the river, and so does Niski and Blabber. So you just have to abandon that, what would have been a proactive play on top. The first time he actually gets hit, so all of this is happening, right? It's 16:44. I think everybody on our team has died. Ryoma's fine, right? He's been some places. He's done some positive things. He doesn't have much to show for it, but no one on our team does. The first actual thing that he kind of messes up, or if you could call it messes up, he gets tagged by a Zoe combo and he has to back.
He did. Yeah, he got hit bad.
He's up 16 CS at that point. And fast forward a little bit, he's up 182-173. Niski doesn't really gain anything from that back that he forces. It's not like he does that back. He forces the back, and then he goes bot lane, and he buys another double kill in bot lane. He just farms a little bit, and I think he backs himself, right? So that's the kind of thing that I was watching for. That didn't translate into a play for C9 because of that happening. So you never want to get tagged by that, but it's not like it broke the game open. Next thing that happens, it's 182-173, Ryoma's up. Shelly gets used mid. So here's how I'm thinking about this. He's had as good a game as anyone on our team. I will say that because he's not dying. He's making contributions to other members of the team. He is getting favorable trades out of the C9 players. He's getting a defensive ult. He's forcing a flash. He's doing stuff. And then they use Shelly in his lane. That's got to be tilting. That's got to be so frustrating. Like, wow, I am up CS on Niski. He is the only thing he really has to show this game so far. He's down CS. He has 2 kills that he, 1, picked up on a Sejuani who was trailing the pack, and 2, picked up one of the free time kills on our bot lane. I'm doing my job, and I'm doing it well. And here's Shelly in my mid lane to blow up my turret, which I've worked hard to protect. And not long after that, it's 188-177. Ryoma's still up 11 CS, and he gets killed by a Blabber ult after Zoe hits a combo. And it's the first time he's dead. He finishes the game up 11 CS. That's the only death he has. Everyone else has, Ssumday's up 3, he's 1-2-0. Medios is down 12, he's 0-1-0. And our bot lane is both 0-2-0, down 5, Stunt's up 8. So I think Ryoma has the best game of anybody on our team in game 1.
Maybe. I will say this. I do think that this is, in my estimation, a little charitable of a look at it, because I do think, one, that the stuff that Niski's doing out of lane is more impactful than perhaps it's getting credit for, even if it's just vision, even if it is cleaning up kills, because the deal is you want to have, at the end of the day, if you can allocate your kills any way you want them, you're going to want them on your mid lane assassin, right? Get him there. So he's checking that box because that makes him stronger. That's extra gold, extra stacks, if depending on your itemization, that sort of thing. So I think that's important. And then yeah, I think that while Ryoma did make some moves and some roams, first of all, I think they were a little late and indecisive. And that quicker timing could have resulted in better outcomes in some places. And then yeah, he didn't get as many opportunities to roam. And I want to point that out because this changes later. So I know that this is your game one assessment. My assessments were like they're more sparse than this, and so I can actually run through game two if you want, and I'll be quicker about it, chat.
Yeah.
So this is how, kind of the important parts that I see that played out. I'm just doing first 15 minutes of these games, and we again run back Syndra into Zoe, right?
That was my other thing. When I see this and I see how this went, that's where I think the Syndra pick actually makes sense. Because if not for, like, if you run back the fight where Zoe or Niski gets 2 kills, if that fight is going in our favor in the bot lane and Ryoma shows up and we finish off, if we get the double kill, then Niski's actually out of position and he is engaged on, right? So it wasn't the Ryoma's Niski matchup there that was the problem. It was the fact that we already lost our 2 bot laners. The damage was gone. We didn't have a chance in that fight.
Well,
so
yeah, and yeah. It's also though, as I pointed out, like he didn't get his back off because he was hesitant about it, and because of that had no mana.
That fight doesn't go differently.
I think it does. If
he had only time to cast 1 spell. He had after he cast Scatter of the Weak, both of his bot laners died. He was still on cooldowns, even if he had mana, right?
Well, also if he backed earlier, he may have. No, actually, I don't think he would have gotten back to the fight sooner.
He was in the fight before Niski.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, I don't know. I don't know if I fully agree, but I see your point, and I think it's valid. Okay, so game 2. Ryoma basically maintains a small, like, marginal CS lead. I tried to take CS snapshots when waves were actually complete rather than like at time markers and stuff, so doing my best to do that. We got, Ryoma backs first at 4 minutes. Niski backs a little bit after that. Niski roams up to help kill Ssumday after his weird rage chase that we mentioned. And all he did was pump in the final paddle star, right? So he gets the cleanup kill, get him the gold, the stack, whatever. We've talked about that. 8 minutes, 30 seconds in the game, Ryoma actually roams up to help take Rift Herald. He's up 7 CS when he leaves, and is able to maintain that lead. So he gets a valuable roam off for neutral objective, successful. Niski roams bot at 9 minutes and 30 seconds to help them fend off a turret dive from us, and he's successful doing so. Like, our turret dive doesn't work. Ryoma roamed down on this, but he was late, so he didn't arrive early enough to do anything about it. And essentially wasted his time because he doesn't get there to do anything and then has to walk back to lane. Backs come in shortly after. Ryoma still up 5 CS. Shortly after, Niski roams up to top, picks up kill on Cody's son. Ryoma again, a bit slow on his roam. He actually almost kills Niski. It doesn't work out for him ultimately, and then Niski gets that 2-man paddle star kill, which is just I don't think I've seen a paddle star kill 2 either. Including, mopping up Ryoma on the retreat. So again, I think that was more of a product of a slower roam than anything else. And then they just got caught out of position because they weren't synced up. Cody-san and Stunt feed Niski a kill in mid lane at 12 minutes 30 seconds. Just here's a kill for you. Mm-hmm. So Niski's still down 10 CS, but at this point he already has 6 kills in the game.
Kills. Oh, sorry.
6 kills in the game.
Of course.
Between all this, because they're just serving them up to him, right? Mm-hmm. So
he and let's not get it crooked. I'm not making any kind of an argument that Ryoma is actually better than Niski, nor am I trying to say that he's not getting kills because he's not good. Like, he's still good. I think that the point that I'm coming to is I don't think that this. I mean, short of Ryoma actually bullying him in lane and like him not being able to roam because he is always almost dead, like, yeah, that would be better. That would be ideal. But he remains up CS, right? So he's doing what he can there. And he's not up CS because he's farming an empty lane, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just that, he's always out getting kills and winning the game for his team. So yeah, your CS numbers are great. Good job. Like, it's competitive in that sense. And the advantages that Niski is pushing to his team are not so game-breakingly huge. Like, I would put a lot more of the advantage that we're seeing on the fact that we are donating kills to people and we are inting in top lane. Like, that was definitely a more influential factor, at least in game one, that, you know, like, that's where I think you need to be looking, right? At the end of that game, you're not like, if you're the coach and you turn to Ryoma and say, like, what was that, man? I would be like, what was what? Like, which part of that game are you even referring to when you look at me?
Yeah. Problem is, it's like, it does, I see what you said earlier about, like, Ryoma basically does as much work as he can to kind of like hold things in place for a while, and then he's ultimately rewarded by, you know, getting his lane taken over by Shelly or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit the same here. Again, he's being late to this stuff, so if his timing's a little better, I don't think this gets as out of control. But the fact is, by 15 minutes, like, Ryoma's up 8 CS in lane, cool, but he's down 6 kills, like 6-0-0 to 0-1-0.
But again,
you know,
how many of those kills were on Ryoma?
Well, right, I know, but I'm saying, like, I think some of these things materially go different if like, everything is more synchronized with each other.
When it comes to a roam, like, how much of arriving early or late is the difference between arriving to a winning versus losing fight? Like, when Niski shows up, if his job is to cast a paddle star, it's hard to show up late, right? Like, you just got to get there before he, I don't know, get there. Because even if he's under turret, you just R, Q, and leave, right? Like, that's the easiest cleanup kill of your life. And he did that at least once. So if you're Syndra, it's a little bit more involved. And like, that's a limitation of the champ that you have to think about when you draft it, especially if you're drafting it first. And I don't think that was the right move. I get why they drafted it second game. I don't get why they drafted it first. I still think Aphelios is a better first draft. But when I watch that game, I'm not saying, holy cow, you have got to do anything you can to try to stop this Zoe. It wasn't coming through mid. You still have to do that, but it's not because he just had such a free game that you had no chance.
And that's a good way to say it. He didn't have such a free game. I like the way you're saying that.
And like, Bjergsen Syndra against Ryoma was free. Like, he had a free game, and he got solo kills, and he cleaned up, and he got rich, and he got fat, and then we lost. This was not that game.
Yeah. Well, so the discussion on these two games, I think, sets up the third game, because for me, the third game was materially different with how things went. So first of all, we had, like I said, we had tempo in our early game. We actually had a lead. We held on to that for basically about 20 minutes, right? Here's how that one played out. And it played out a little differently. So instead of Syndra, we have him on LeBlanc, who's more mobile. And he, you know, obviously I think Ryoma is comfortable on all these champions, right? But definitely comfortable with the mobility of LeBlanc. So here's how it plays out. In the beginning, Niski gets the cheese kill on Stunt right away, right? So it's like, I think they put 4 in that bush on bot side, and they kill Stunt right away. Of course, it's Stunt, by the way.
Of course, yes, of course.
So, okay, free kill. You're automatically going in with that lead. Ssumday and Meteos, then on the top side, they sit on the warded bush, and that leads to an engage. But Ryoma is there soon enough to support, and actually they get the kill over to Ssumday. So Ryoma gets an assist out of it. Okay. At 2:15, Meteos actually tries to gank mid lane, which we almost never see.
Didn't happen.
It's a weak gank. It's one of those, like, 40% effort gank things, but they get like 7/8.
Basically, it's just a very active minion in coming down the wave.
Well, it's a little bit better than that. I mean, I don't think the gank had a chance of winning. I think they were just trying to get his health bar low enough to push him off.
Right.
They get about 7/8 of his health bar, but they don't get any summoners out of him. Okay. So it's not that bad for him. It's not like putting Ryoma ahead in this situation, really. Ryoma makes an active roam out of lane at 3:25. He finds Blabber in his jungle and immediately forces his flash out. All right, because he's got that chain, so Blabber has to get out. Niski backs first. Ryoma is down 2 CS. Fast forward to the first Drake take. They're even in lane. There's no lane priority, but 100 Thieves is there to take the dragon. All right. At 6:30, Niski has a nice trade, forces Ryoma to start backing. Ryoma actually stays though because Meteos is close. Meteos attempts the gank and it like misses the skill shot or whatever. I think he was playing Jarvan this game. I can't really remember. But it doesn't land. Blabber's there to provide support. Ssumday comes in though, and they get the kill onto Blabber. So Ryoma sitting at 0-2. Niski has his 1 kill off of Cheese. Niski backs at 7:15. Ryoma is still down 2 CS, so virtually even. And Ryoma backs 30 seconds later. He gets priority in the lane, and Stunt and Ssumday actually made their way to Shelly. So that priority keeping Niski locked down helps to earn Rift Herald. But he's starting to pay for this a little bit. He's starting to pay for the roams and the more active plays. So he's down 15 CS. And a lot of this, the way it looked to me is it played out from the desync backs that they had. Just kind of resulted in that for him. Ryoma joins Meteos later for a roam into bot side jungle. They get a couple wards, but don't find anything. Then Ryoma tries to bait Niski into a gank setup for Meteos at 9:45, but Blabber's there at the same time, so nothing happens. Ryoma gets some support in mid lane. Ryoma gets a lot of damage in on Blabber. There's no follow through. After that, there's a fight. 4 C9 players are there. Meteos goes in by himself, like too early, takes a lot of damage, and it just throws off the entire setup, and we lose the dragon. All right. At 11:30, Ryoma's already down 20 CS. Okay, remember, he's been active here. All the announcer talk up to this point has been about how much better this early game has been for 100 Thieves. They're like, wow, like this is totally different. Like, look at the tempo they have. This has been great. Really, what is the difference? It's been Ryoma roaming, actually, in this game. He's been proactively roaming. And he's
Yeah. Is that the difference?
Yeah.
Is the difference not that we didn't have an 0-2 and 0 bot lane duo? Both of them having died twice?
Sure. Well, Stunt died right away, right?
Right. Once. For a lot of that first game, they were sitting at between them, 0-4 and 0. You know, like, and I think, like, how many times did Ssumday die in lane during the early game?
I didn't track that in this one, in my notes section here.
Like, it was probably more characteristic of what we usually get. You know, like, I just think
I'll say this. So, at least in some material way, his proactive roams have turned the early game. Because clearly, like, there's things that we can point to of him, you know, providing support, getting kills, getting neutrals. Like, that's actively happening here, right? The sacrifice, though, is the CS, right? So one of the differences is when Niski does all this stuff, and Niski, in my opinion, is the best mid laner in the LCS right now. He'd be my vote for MVP. Okay, so we're comparing him to the best of the best. But when Niski does this, his CS doesn't suffer in the same way.
I mean, his first game, though,
as drastic.
He was down almost 20 CS.
Not when you equalize for the waves. So at
one point, I was equalizing. He was 93 to 76, and I had equalized. And Niski was roaming to help secure the rift at that time.
So let's see, because I was equalizing too, and by my count, which I may just have missed it, but it was never like that egregious. But I also only went to 15 minutes. So, but I guess with those CS numbers, it's still earlier than that. But in any case, he's like, I think this is a fair statement. That what Niski sacrifices when he roams ends up being less than what Ryoma sacrifices when he roams. Could you agree on that statement?
I think the main difference is Niski arrives, when he arrives, to a winning fight. Ryoma arrives to a losing fight, except in game 3, where he wasn't arriving to a losing fight. He was roaming in game 1 to try to cobble something together, to hold it together. They were arriving to try to do damage control. And when that is what you arrive to, if your top laner is down 70% of his health bar, you're not trying to get a kill. You're trying to save your top lane, right? And if you show up in bot lane and you are the first one there, the first reinforcement there, and you have time to cast a Q and an E, and then both of your bot laners are dead, you're not there to clean it up. You're there to try to save somebody. And it didn't happen. And I look at that not as a reflection of Ryoma and how inept he is. I look at it as you got fires everywhere, and you're just flailing your fire extinguisher around, hoping that something goes out, and it didn't. So that's when I look at it. That game, when I watch individual plays, I think it's a good representation, that one bot lane situation. Ryoma and Meteos showing up. Meteos gets picked off. Ryoma shows up, does a thing, and then tries to escape. And Nisqy has the benefit of methodically picking his way through that fight to leave with 2 kills. And Ryoma leaves without dying. And that's the best thing you can say about the situation. I think that's the primary difference in that fight, in that game.
Even if that's so, right? What does that say about the laning situation, though, at the same time?
For Ryoma.
Because on average, like I'm looking at all the snapshots I took on CS, on average, when Ryoma is roaming more than Nisqy, his CS tax is twice as high as Nisqy's. I think Nisqy's timing is better.
So it's like here you have.
I don't want to debate like the exact numbers, but I'm telling you, like I took a lot of snapshots, and on average, Ryoma is like paying like kind of like a 2 times tax on his roams. Mm-hmm. Like when Nisqy roams and loses 2 CS, Ryoma would roam and lose 4. Like I think there's a timing component to this as well, is what I'm saying. And you pay that tax in lane, right? So the whole point of me saying all this is like in game 3, when we made it a point for Ryoma to be more active on the map, we gave him more mobility and apparently probably a charge to do more of that. Like he made sacrifices in lane that ideally you would like to not make, right? So I don't know. I'm not I am not arguing that I think he needs to be benched or traded or whatever. Like, I am in favor of having him on this team. I'm in favor of giving him the entire next split, but I do see deficiencies in him that make him compare just not favorably to upper tier mid laners in the LCS. And so he has, and yes, I know he's doing damage control on some of this stuff, but he has parts of his game that definitely need to be improved if we want to have him in a position to contend.
Here's what I say. This is my takeaway. If you put him on C9, a 1-for-1 swap, I am confident that he comes out looking good. Does he look Nisqy good? Nah, he's not Nisqy, right?
Yeah, sure.
At least not today. He's not Nisqy. I'm not trying to argue that. We have seen him when he's strong and when he's fighting in a team that's strong and he gets kills. How many times did we see a stat line from him that was great? That's the difference. When you look at these disastrous games, there's nothing that one player can do, especially if you're mid lane, I think, to try to shore up losing positions everywhere else. It's just not going to happen. And I think that in this game, what we saw was him doing his job in lane. And he was as active, in game 1 I'm talking, as Nisqy. And Nisqy didn't have impactful roams for the most part. He had contributions in team fights that went his way because his team had already won those fights when he showed up. That's not brilliance from a mid laner. It doesn't take the LCS's best mid laner to make that play. It helps to give you the kinds of leads that you can punish people with, for sure. But that wasn't him. That wasn't a Bjergsen-esque performance where Bjergsen wills his team to stop inting and just takes over. Like that was a really well-oiled machine feeding kills to the player they wanted them to be fed to so that he could pop off. And I think that's the difference for me. Like the fact that Ryoma had the game he did in the type of circumstances he was in says a lot to me. And I think that if you give this kid a split, which I think we will, I'm confident the org will. If you give him a split with a high performing bot lane and a Ssumday that we all know is going to perform very highly, I'm not worried about that at all. I think he actually looks a lot better. I think you see a lot more of these roams that look like he's showing up right on time and he's cashing in or he's helping somebody else cash in, because it's going to be a completely different scene. He's going to show up not as the person trying to see if he can get a lucky scout of the week and land 3 stuns with 1 shot. He's going to be the one, dropping an ult to get a kill or 2, right? That's going to be the difference, I think, if you can actually get him some surrounding cast and crew who are reliably setting him up like Niski was set up.
So I don't totally disagree with you, but I think that you're putting a shine on this that is maybe a little higher shine than I would put on it. That's all I'm saying. So I fall on the side of like, I want Ryoma in. I want to give him the entire summer split and see if he continues developing. I think he's clearly shown progress, and I think there are clear areas where he needs to improve if we want to be like a perennial top 3 team. I think we can agree on that. But I do think that I still think that it's just a little bit of a charitable reading of him. And we disagree on that, and that's fine.
I'm really doing this as a close reading of game 1. Like, I didn't do the same reading for game 2. I didn't do it for game 3.
Yeah.
And I know that there are games where he has been far behind in lane. I'm not going to deny that either.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at just this one game, I think you have to look at it and say he was up CS and he did what he could. And it wasn't his play that led to the kinds of situations we found ourselves in.
Sure. And I think like the one thing that you cannot dispute is that there has been significant improvement throughout the split. You know what I mean? So in my mind, it would be a shame to just put an end to that. All right. We dove way deeper into that than we ever have gone. So chat, sorry. I hope we didn't lose too many of you doing that. But, this is the topic that keeps coming up. This is the topic we keep getting asked about. This is what we see on Twitter. This is what we see on Reddit. So we wanted to do that more justice for this series.
And I think it is the most important topic for this team going into next split. Like, I think this is the one that we need to be most critical and thoughtful about.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially because, and we'll make some of these other points like pretty quick. I think it's pretty universally agreed on that Stunt needs to go, right?
Yeah.
He had actually, like, not, in my opinion, not that bad of a weekend the previous weekend. It was not a good weekend against C9 though. And while he's had certainly more egregious games where, like the faceplant hooks and stuff like that from Nautilus, like, I don't know, he got caught out multiple times, giving kills over for no reason, and he wasn't quite as impactful as, you should expect a support to be. I will say this. I reacted very strongly to his negative play when I first watched this series. When I was like watching back for the pod, and I especially watched the early games, and then I watched like all the highlights multiple times from the games, it wasn't quite as bad as I remembered, but it's still like a problem. And Cody's son needs to have just a better support. Like, there's no way around it. Like, I feel like Cody is definitely being held back, and just seeing them on those, experimental picks that we were joking about. Gosh, man, it hurts so bad. And I just wonder, and I don't know who in the world would be available to get pulled in for this spot, but I just wonder, if we had like a top tier support for Cody, like, would he be crushing everybody? I mean, he's third team all pro with Stunt as his support. Yeah. Remember how good he was when he had Vulcan last year.
Right.
If we're able somehow to secure somebody, as good as that, these things would be way different. And so for me, in my mind, like, the book's closed on that. Like, I'm done.
Yes. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like that's, you can spend 1 minute talking about Stunt, where I think there's still a lot of questions to be asked and answered about Ryoma, and just a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
Which is why you dive deep on that one.
Yeah. I do want to bring up also the Ssumday and Licorice matchup, because, and I hate to say it, man, Ssumday got thoroughly beaten by Licorice this weekend. And I will also point out that Licorice has gotten the best of Ssumday, I think, in literally every matchup definitely this year. And I think even going back to when Ssumday was still on the team in 2019, when he was still on the LCS squad. I feel like I remember that. Someone will have to check me on that, but
yeah,
I was like, Ssumday needs to be first team all pro. He is good enough to be first team all pro. He got second team all pro to Licorice, and I disagreed with that, but it's not like there's no case for Licorice, right? Like, clearly that is a defensible case.
Right. It's not like people just conspired to put him in a spot he didn't belong.
Dude, but I gotta ask you this: can you defend Ssumday over Licorice after this weekend?
No,
I can't, man. I can't, and I love that guy, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's no more definitive way to settle that argument than in 3 straight games. I mean, the thing that we did, which some might call mental gymnastics now, is we said it was Aatrox into Camille, right?
Yeah.
Tough matchup. This was Ornn into Gangplank, right? Like, that's not it, and it was just Ssumday not respecting him, and he paid the price.
Yeah, he did. He definitely paid the price, and he tilted because of it.
And he tilted, and this game is mental and physical, and if you tilt, you don't get a pass for that, and you make a bad play because you're tilted, still a bad play. So, yeah, I mean, at this point in time, I think I put this firmly in the Licorice. Licorice owns the top lane in 2020 spring split. We'll see what
part of me is hoping somehow we get that rematch in the finals, like grand finals, and Ssumday gets his shot to like take
all
him
of
again.
Me's hoping. Yeah,
but
not part of me.
Okay, just a couple other really quick things. I know we need to move on to TSM, and we're going long tonight, so sorry about that. You asked a question. Isn't this what we've been saying about C9 all along? This split. Did we expect a different outcome on this? Do you want to tell me where your thoughts are on this question?
I mean, I think it was Crumbs maybe who said it, but basically it's like if you tier the LCS out, right? You have C9 and everyone else, and it's not even close. Really.
No, it's not.
Yeah. And their record says as much. So part of it makes me think, are we seeing now Cloud9 in their playoff form, which appears to be they have a different gear maybe that we haven't seen yet. So even if I think you look at this as we played them close at one point in the split, and so maybe we can play them close again. And by playing them close, I mean like we actually put up a fight where most people didn't. That was kind of the optimistic tack to take going into this. If C9 is better in playoffs than they are in the regular split, which I think is a reasonable thing to think, perhaps you don't even get to be competitive with C9. And we'll see, right? In their series to come, we'll see if that is the case. But it's not uncommon that a really, really dominant team enters like playoff mode. No nonsense, no joking. It's all winning, and it's winning in a way that is demoralizing to people who think about having to play you. Maybe that's what we saw here.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, and this kind of bleeds into the other last question you had, which was how does a loss change our end of split feelings? There's losing, and then there's like getting curb stomped.
Yeah.
And we were the latter. And I think like I had to actively remind myself of what I said at the end of last pod, which was, you know what? Like we finished 3rd in the regular season. We were not projected to finish anywhere close to that by any analyst. All right. And maybe it's due to the chaos in the league, a lot of unexpected stuff. Doesn't take away the fact that we were in good form, good enough to get there at the end of the split. That in and of itself is a trust the Papa dub. We hit playoffs, we hit 3rd place, that's a dub. And I said everything else after that is just a cherry on the top, right? We didn't get a cherry out of this thing.
No.
But at the same time, we looked so thoroughly outclassed that you left feeling worse about it than like you should have otherwise. Like even when you know it's a problem. This to me is like, it's like when you have to have a conversation with your significant other about like a definite character flaw that you have and you have, and you've already talked about it a bunch, but it's like you feel worse about yourself at the end of the conversation. Right. And this match was a very painful conversation between 100 Thieves and C9. And so I still like, I had to remind myself everything that we get in playoffs was just bonus. But man, that beating made me feel worse about our end of season form,
Yes. And I think here's the kicker for me. If we lose to TSM, we'll get into that in a second. If we lose to them, the conversation turns not to, wow, what a great job finishing third.
Yeah.
Really, really great split. It turns to 100 Thieves didn't belong. This is a fluke. They finished way above where they should have, which is out of the playoffs, because clearly they can't hang with even the 5th place team.
Right.
So they should have been 8th or 9th. And I'm getting flashbacks to our Worlds experience, right?
Exactly. It's exactly Worlds.
And that's what I think is the most frustrating to me is, and in part because of the way this all played out.
I was going to say, okay, you're going right where I'm going with this thing.
Yeah. It means that we have the hardest path probably of anybody.
Yeah.
Because what everybody's saying, TSM 5th place, 5th seed. And everybody freaking says, which makes no sense, but I kind of get it, they are the team that has the best chance to beat C9.
Oh, I get it.
How, in what world is the 5th seed? So it speaks to how crazy this whole split has been.
It's exactly right. Another way of saying what you're saying is if C9 doesn't choose us, we play EG, we win or lose to them, it's probably not going to be a blowout.
Yep.
When we head down, and if we win, then all things are aside, right? If we win, that's the end of the questioning.
We're where we should be.
Yeah, we're where we should be. If we lose to C9 and then lose to even TSM again in the bottom, whatever. Now, if we lose to EG, though, it's like, it's all right. And we play Golden Guardians, and we're likely going to beat Golden Guardians.
Yes. And if you lose to Golden Guardians, shame on you.
Yeah, if you lose, then okay, we can take some heat. But if you win, then it's, again, the questioning stops. Like, okay, cool, they're where they should be. But now, because we had to play C9, we look like straight booty, and then we have to go play TSM. And if we look like straight booty again, we're going to have to hear it from all the fans of the other teams for the next whole year. I mean, I still hear about Worlds. We got into it with Team Liquid's Twitter over Worlds this year.
And this is exactly like Worlds, Cole, where we get into a group, and would you guess who's in our group? It's the two freaking Worlds finalists. And people are looking at us saying, you guys didn't belong.
You didn't even take a game.
You didn't even take one game. And actually, the only people you beat, G-Rex? Who is that? So yeah, we've got Worlds dubs against G-Rex. This is going to be the same thing. So watch. If what we get is a Cloud9 TSM grand final, I think I have to quit. I think I have to just walk away from this whole thing and say the forces are conspiring against us. Because
clearly we chose wrong.
If you go out to the 1 and 2 playoff teams, you are potentially the 3rd best team. And you know who believes that? No one. Not a single person. They're going to say you're the 9th best team, actually.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. TSM. Let's talk about TSM then. There was a Twitter question we got from someone who I don't think has submitted before. So shout out to @RenMonet or Moni, however you say it. MONE. Money. Said, did the C9 series provide valuable information for TSM to use against us? There was actually a reply that came from longtime 100 Talk Take contributor, Leech Terrell, aka @Tman_Comor, Komor, who said, they have all the information they need. We played the same style and champs all split. Shut down Ssumday, they lose. Reminds me of when Jordan was on the Washington Wizards. Michael Jordan, not our dear beloved Jordan.
Not me.
Reminds me when Michael Jordan was on the Washington Wizards. The whole team just watched and hoped he carried every game. And he couldn't, they just rolled over. So there's that. All right. So that's like the pre-information. But not only do they have that information, they got to watch this series against C9 where it's like, oh, hey, oh man, we got to watch this Tarek and Callista bot. Turns out, no, we don't need to plan for that one. Oh, Kog'Maw. Oh, when's the last time Kog'Maw showed up in NA? All right. I guess it doesn't matter. It's, they are less threatened in draft than they would be otherwise. Not to mention, they get to see us in a best of 5 for the first time. You know what I mean? Like, we played our first best of 5, and they get to see all the analysis from that. We haven't seen this TSM in a best of 5. You know what I mean? Like, so yes, they have an information advantage over us, which kind of sucks, man. And it's kind of how this format ended up playing out. I'm glad we have double elimination, or else we would be doing the see you next split pod today. But still, it's just like, man, Yes, they have a definite advantage here.
And if you're not convinced that this is an advantage, ask yourself this: would you like to know who TSM would pick for at least 3 games? Yeah, it's so obviously a huge advantage to understand and know who they're going to play, whether or not it's the same old or a new look. It's still good to be able to look at that and say we should probably at least be ready for that.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, here's the deal: we're matching up against a team who knows us well. The last time we played, we kind of pulled a win out of nowhere, out from them. So, Jordan, as usual, I come to you very pessimistic about this game. I think our morale is going to be so dumpstered from this C9 game, and in combination with that, TSM beat us in the first round robin. In the second round robin, it was a miracle win. I just can't, no matter how I slice it, I can't feel good about it. Because it's like, all right, think about the player matchups. Ssumday and a Broken Blade. All right, I got Ssumday into that. Broken Blade usually does pretty well, though. He usually like does reasonably well against Ssumday. And then sometimes I think he's even like beat him, right? Jungle, Meteos got, we didn't talk about this at all. Meteos got really, really out jungled by Blabber.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Dardoch is going to be super aggressive, but he's kind of mercurial. You know, you're not sure exactly what you're going to get, but I mean, he's going to be aggressive. That's one thing that we know. In the mid lane, guess what? It's the person who seems to always take us down in Bjergsen. And do you know how many champions you have to ban out against Bjergsen? You have to ban
100.
out about 13. Yeah. So there aren't enough bans to ban out Bjergsen. And then he's going against one of our weaker players, right? Depending on where you put him. Or that's looking rough. And then
I mean, at the very least, you could say Bjergsen has had past success against Ryoma. And that is true no matter which way you look at it.
Yes, and he's also had hard success in the LCS in general. Right. Specifically against 100 Thieves. And if he pulls out Zillion, I'm going to like just throw my computer. If he gets Zillion, I'm going to throw my computer. And then bot lane, I think could actually be even if Stunt doesn't int. I think bot lane could actually be like that maybe is an area where we can move in. As was pointed out on, I think that was a JLXP. It might've been the dive. TSM has some weird drafting issues as well. They don't play well into Orin, which Nickel Polka was pointing out. And they don't they need Zyra Khan basically, I think, to succeed in bot lane. So I think bot lane will be the place where we could maybe go to get a definite advantage. And then if Ssumday pops off, then they're definitely in trouble, you know?
Yep.
If Broken Blade's able to keep Ssumday in any sort of reasonable check, though, it's in my mind going to be on the bot lane to do something.
Yeah. I hope that Ssumday's playing mad, and I hope that he's not just inting, right? Like, that's a scary line that we've uncovered. And because usually he just plays bad. Like you talked about him chasing down Meteos, right? That was a mad play. He was a madman.
Yeah.
And it worked.
But we need good mad.
If we're losing top lane, I do think that we have almost no chance of winning a game. Not because that's our only win condition, but because I think we at least need to go even there.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm feeling what we have to do. We have to draft better than them, which, hey, maybe Zix has some more intel that he can help us with from past experience against them, but we have to draft well. We have to beat them in draft. And then our bot lane has to go off. I don't think it's even like Stunt has to not in. I think that bot lane has to actively do well.
Right. They need to look like they have looked in some of these past couple of weeks. But like we've been talking about, we are nowhere close to that being a reliable anticipated outcome.
Yeah. So let's do this. Predictions, actual predictions for the series. Here's mine. I predict that they will win game 1. We will win game 2, and then they will take the next 2 games. So I think it'll be ping pong at first, and then they'll end up winning 3-1.
Okay. I predicted initially 3-2 us. Cole, I have to stay with my prediction because I cannot
Ever the
accept
optimist.
that it's too painful. It's too painful for me to predict that our season ends this way. I can't do it. So I'm sticking with it. I think it's going to be it's an unlikely 3-2, but we take it in 3, Cole.
You say it's unlikely, but it's still your prediction? Come on, man.
Yeah, I know. I can't accept it. It's too hard. It hurts too much. I have to just maintain this prediction. I'll take it at the cost of my pick rate over the longitudinal pick rate, which is probably somewhere below 20% now.
Well, our man BC in chat has the intel here. Cole has to predict TSM to reverse curse us. There's nothing else I can do, man.
Yes.
There's nothing else Cole. I can do.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to do my part, man.
200 IQ pick from Cole.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm nervous.
Me too. I really don't want it to end this way. That would just put a big old rain cloud over this whole split, which is otherwise a very sunny split for us, Cole.
Yeah. So our game is Wednesday, I believe, or our series, right? Is that right?
It's like 48 hours from now, Cole. What are we going to do about that?
We are going to hope and fast and pray. That's what we're going to do. Are we going to
pod? We haven't talked about that. So I don't even know.
Oh, after the series? I'm sure we'll figure out something.
We'll do something.
But yeah, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Central, it looks like. So 4 Eastern and 1 on the left coast.
Central?
Yeah. It's interesting time. Quarantine times.
Gosh. Not like a midweek, mid-afternoon.
Yeah, right. I hope so bad. And this is like less time to prepare for us too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm not going to flip it, Cole. I'm not going to flip my prediction. I never do, but.
All right. We're going to really, really hope for a TSM win. TSM win, or excuse me, for 100 Thieves win over TSM.
Okay. What?
The 100 Thieves win would really do a lot for the morale of this team and for how this team is perceived by the league. I don't want to deal with the toxic fans anymore. Please, no. 100 Thieves, if you're listening, Papa Smithy, if you're listening, Zix,
try to win, please.
Please win. Please win.
If you could, just win.
If we could call in any sort of favor, we ask that they win.
We should deliver the buff, Cole. Bring the buff.
We're gonna hop on an empty plane to LA and sit in an apartment close to where they are, since we can't actually go to the studio.
Right. I have on good faith that the buff has a 100-meter radius. So
we'll pull out the heartbeat sensors and get as close as we can. All right. We should definitely get off now. Everybody, thanks for sticking with us for another long episode. We're starting to go long, but
we're doing this. It's now 90-minute pod.
We do it for you. We do it for you so you can know the truth about Ryoma. We look forward to this series and the dubs. And we love you and we miss you already. We'll see you next time.